Islam, like any precious gem, has many beautiful facets. Join us now for Facets of Islam. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Yusuf Estes. I'll be your host for the next few minutes on Facets of Islam, and we're going to be talking about one of my favorite of all the facets of Islam, freedom. Today there's a lot of talk about freedom. We hear about freedom of the press. We hear about freedom of speech. We hear about the many freedoms that democracy offers or capitalism offers for us. The different societies and civilizations always promoting this idea of freedom, freedom, and we all want freedom. And who really would be the enemy to freedom? Doesn't even make sense. As a matter of fact, every single person wants freedom from something. Freedom from tyranny, freedom from oppression, freedom from poverty, freedom from drugs, freedom from abuse, freedom from ignorance. Everyone's talking about freedom, freedom, freedom. What's the opposite? What's the other side of freedom? Slavery. Yes, I remember. Slavery, that's the opposite. Slavery to what? Slavery to humans, slavery to work, slavery to passion, slavery to drugs, slavery to one's own emotions. There's so many kinds of slavery. What does Islam say about this? What is the facet of freedom in Islam? Exactly. How do I understand that? If I study Islam even a little bit, I learned about this word slavery. And yet some people tell me Islam is freedom. But I hear about this word slavery. In fact, I hear it over and over in the Quran itself saying, my slave. Even when it speaks about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself, he's not listed as a king in the Quran. He's not listed as an emperor in the Quran. He's not mentioned as some kind of a godhead or some kind of a great leader in Quran. In fact, Allah has called him a slave. Read chapter 17 of the Quran, Surah Al-Isra. Alhamdulillah, the praise to the one who has sent his servant. That's one translation. Slave, another. Abdihi is clear. Abd. Abd is a slave. Abdullah means the slave of Allah. I used to try to retranslate that as servant in the common usage of the language today. I said it's more appropriate really to say servant than it is to say slave, because slave, it brings us back a connotation of years gone by of this harsh slavery, of beating a person with a whip, of taking away their rights, of oppressing them. There's so much oppression when we think about slavery that I didn't want to use that when I give the translation, the meaning of the Quran to someone. But then I realized that, no, Abdihi, this is Arabiya, this is Arabic, this is what it says. It says slave. It's a slave. If you want to really be one of those that follows Islam, you're a slave. Some of the enemies of the propagation of Islam, they were telling people, you go to Islam, you're going to be a slave. In fact, that's what they're warning everybody about. Be afraid of Islam. It will enslave you. Stay away from the Muslims. They're promoting something that's calling for slavery. We don't want to be slaves. Little do they know, they already are. Because if you truly understand Islam, and you know the miracles of Islam, you know the truth of Islam, you know the proof of Islam, you know the reality of Islam, the rights in Islam, and the other facets that we're talking about constantly, then you already know there really is only one God. And He owns everything. And there isn't anything out there except it all belongs to Him. In effect, the whole entire creation is his slave. It has to do what he wants it to do. There is no choice. The moon can't decide tomorrow, well, I don't think I'll just come up. I'll just stay where I'm at. The sun can't say, well, I don't want to glow today. I think I'll just, shoot off a little bit of heat here and there, and that's it. No. The rain can't say, well, I don't want to fall today. I'll just go up. Everything is under the command of Allah, always. If you understood that, then you should understand that even we today, whether we choose to or not, are still only going to do what He wills for us to do. But if we do so by choice, if we give in and we do what we've been talking about in the past, if we give the sincerity to Him, if we give the peace and we give the commitment, the surrender, the obedience to Him that's due to Him, if we follow, and it's in the books, please go back and read, see what it says in the books before. Does it or does it not command the followers? Or is it just called the 10 suggestions? There's only one king, the owner, the sovereign, and He has given a clear commandment to all to worship Him alone without any partners, no gods beside Him. So if I do that, I cannot help except be His slave. And if you said, no, I've got it, we've got the proof on you Muslims, you have said it, and we got you, it's in your own show, you just said it, and we did. But listen, if you're not a slave to your Creator, then you're a slave to something He created. Either you're a slave to someone or something, or a slave to your own passions, lusts, and desires. You are a slave to the substances that you're taking into your body every day. You're a slave to the things around you, the things that you look to try to get peace, really are enslaving you. The things that you turn to get the satisfaction, to get the emotion, these are enslaving you. Smoking, tobacco, alcohol, drinking, drugs, pornography, violence, ownership. All of these things enslave. When a person needs from this creation, he's never going to be fulfilled. Look what Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, said. If the son of Adam had a valley full of gold, he'd want another just like it. How could that be? What would you do if you had a valley full of gold? What would you do with it? Stop and think of this tremendous statement that's being made here. A valley of gold. You couldn't even hide it from anybody, could you? It's there. It's a gold valley. Wow. And now what will you do with it? Where will you keep it? In fact, if you had all the gold of the earth, and stop and think about this, if you had all the gold of the earth, then what benefit would it be? Because you couldn't buy anything, because if you tried to buy it, then you wouldn't have all the gold of the earth anymore, would you? Would you? What good was it? No. This gold will not bring you freedom. The wealth is not going to bring you the freedom. What about fame? That everywhere you go, people say, oh, look who it is. It's so-and-so. Can we have your autograph? Isn't it nice? Oh, and waving. But would that really bring you freedom? In fact, if you need that, then you need the people to recognize you to get this. So there's no benefit in that. There's not going to be any freedom come to you from any of these substances that you take either, because actually you become a slave to it. First time a person smokes a cigarette, first time, does what? Makes it so it's easy to do it the second time. There's no reason not to do it the second time. The big reason was not to do something bad the first time, because the second time, well, I already did it once, or twice, or three, or 4, and then the nicotine sets in and starts working in the lungs, in the nervous system, and in order to get any kind of rest, any kind of relaxation at all, I can't stop this pain, the agony, I gotta have another cigarette. Ah, the freedom of smoking. Freedom? You just gave away your lung. You just gave away your health. You just gave cancer to your children that you love, and they didn't even smoke. They were in the room with you and got the cancer. What kind of freedom is that? And when we talk about the dependency on alcohol, and again, the first time, oh, well, what's this? Oh, yeah, it tastes terrible, but I feel stupid. And then what? The second time, oh, I've had it before. Oh, look at me. Oh, I'm drinking some alcohol. And then again, and again, until the dependency comes, because now I can't have any fun unless I'm loaded. Freedom? Drugs. Today, some of the drugs are so horrible, so deadly, that a person only needs to take it once. And they don't have to worry about taking it again because they're dead. That's freedom? That's freedom? That's slavery. Freedom. Let's talk about freedom to dress, that a person can dress any way they like. Isn't that a freedom? But wait a minute. Are you talking about the freedom to dress or the freedom to undress? Think about that. What? What's the need inside of you? What's this slavery going on in your head that you're locked in on, that you have to do something so people will like you? So maybe people will like me if I show parts of my body. Wow, look at that. The more I show, the more they like. What is that? And where will you be 50 years from now? Huh? Huh? Slavery or freedom? Now, when we talk about it, some people talk about the freedom of speech. Have you heard this one? The freedom of speech. We've all heard freedom of speech. A journalist has the freedom of speech. He can write as he likes. I attended a special conference in a country that had been insulting Islam in a horrible way. They did a lovely conference. They brought the journalists forward, and they took beautiful care of these people, these journalists and photojournalists. They fed them. They took time to educate them. They gave them anything they needed in the way of proper knowledge to see what is true Islam and share with them. Men and women, Muslims from around the world, PhDs in various subjects, world leaders and politicians who are Muslims came and spoke and shared and shook hands and laughed, and we were together, and it seemed so lovely. It seemed like we had cleared up a lot of misunderstandings. And then in the paper the next day, those same people put the worst kind of statements, twisted everything around, and even lied boldly in headlines. And they took so many pictures waiting to get the right look, you know? Like people are smiling and laughing, having a good time, but maybe somebody would sneeze. Achoo! Get that right there. Ew, look at that guy. Ooh, how mean he looks. They did that. When I saw the papers, I was so distraught. I was so upset. I was fit to be tied. How could somebody do this? And when I began to complain, I said, this is an abomination against true journalism. How could anyone do something like this? Do you know what they said? They said, sir, this is true freedom. Freedom of speech. Freedom of the press. Freedom. I said, stop. You're talking about the freedom to lie. And they stopped cold right there and turned away. The fact is, when you are really on freedom, you're a servant and slave to the Almighty. Then He makes everything free to you. It's all free to you. And listen to this beautiful teaching of Islam about true freedom. You as a human being, as a Muslim who has surrendered, and that's what Muslim means. It means to do Islam, to surrender, submit, obey in sincerity and peace the Almighty. You're free to do that. And when you do, you become a Mu-Islam. One who Islams is called a Muslim. Mu-Islam. That's freedom. That's real freedom. And if you said, well, I don't see that, well, that's because you didn't understand it. You didn't try it. Because according to Islam, as a Muslim, you're free to do anything in this life, anything you would like to do, except those things which He alone has forbidden you to do. Other than that, you're free to do as you like, except what you find evidence of prohibition. He forbids you to worship other than Him. He forbids you to dishonor your parents. He forbids you to take the innocent life. He forbids you to lie and to cheat and to steal. And He forbids you against these horrible acts, these oppressive acts of sex outside of marriage. He forbids you that you oppress others and to take their rights away. But other than that, you're free. You're free to do as you like, except what's forbidden. When it comes to worship, that is where you'll find the biggest restriction, because everything is forbidden. Everything is forbidden to do in worship except that which you find evidence to do. This you're free to do according to the way that you've been instructed. This is how Islam works. Everything in the life, everything in the material existence called Hayat Dunya in the Arabiya, this you're free to do. Enjoy anything except what's forbidden. In worship, everything's forbidden except that which has specifically been ordained for you to do. What a beautiful balance. And if you take advantage of this, and you understand this, and you give up this life for Him, become His slave, then all the rest of the world will open up to you. And you'll take the maximum benefit here, the maximum benefit on the day of judgment, and the maximum benefit in the next life, in the paradise. Yeah, that's a good deal. That's a real good deal. Freedom. I want what will make me the happiest. Because how do I even know what freedom is if there's no basic set of instruction for me? If there's nothing for me to balance, for me to understand? I need something to show me what is freedom anyway. Because those newspapers, the media, television, magazines, and all these other forms of publicity are telling me this is freedom. And that's freedom. And something else is freedom. But when I really investigate it, I find that no, these people are enslaving me. The very things that they're telling me are freedom are the things that enslave me. Them. Look at it. They're the ones who are coming up with ideas of what kind of clothes you have to have, what kind of car you have to have, what kind of house you have to have, what kind of job you have to have, what type of education you have to have. All of the things that they're showing me that I have to have in order to have this freedom. If I don't have those things, according to them, I'm not free. If I don't look a certain way, oh, I must buy makeup. Or maybe I need plastic surgery so somebody can alter the way I look so that I'm what? I'm what they said is free. Does this make sense? Or can I just be me? What about the freedom to be me? What about the freedom to enjoy the life that my Almighty gave me? What about the freedom to express my love and my devotion to Him? What about the freedom to follow what He has ordained for me to do? Can I not have that freedom? My grandfathers and their grandfathers and their grandfathers, hundreds of years ago, fought hard for their freedom in Spain. And then they migrated for freedom into England and fought there, and then went to the New World and fought there for freedom, always saying they were fighting for freedom. But when they went into the New World, there were people already living there, and they fought against them and claimed that they were doing it in freedom, and they enslaved them and rounded them all up into groups or tribes and told them, this is where we want you to be, and this will be your freedom and our freedom. And then they broke away from England and fought them and said, we're fighting for freedom. 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 And then they began to fight themselves. Brothers against brothers, cousins against cousins, uncles, nephews, their own relatives, killing each other over freedom. They said, we're fighting for the right for people to be free. The other side said, we're fighting for the right to be free from your oppression. We want to secede our states from you guys, so we want freedom. And the other guys said, we want freedom. And everybody killed each other in the name of freedom. And when they were all done killing everybody, they had a resolution, and they said, we have freedom now. 100 years after that, people were still treated like slaves. And where's the freedom? And even today, and I've worked in the prison systems for a long time, I know for a fact we're a long way from freedom. In fact, the human being in his wildest imagination can never really conceive and implement the real freedom, because there will always be somebody who wants to put somebody else into slavery of some kind. It's only the Creator himself who can give us the true, real, lasting freedom. To be a slave in this life to the Almighty God is the way to achieve the real freedom of the next life. And that is the perspective and that facet of freedom in Islam.